Welcome, I'm Palma Holden, and I am happy to be here today. Thank you. I also want to tell you that I am a divine, loving, creative, beloved, richly blessed expression of the divine. And I now claim my abundance. I'm talking about claiming our good today, simply sharing reminders that of this beautiful fact, and hoping that you can touch those places in your heart and step into that fullness that you are, that we all are. I found this book as we were cleaning, sorting, unpacking the children's area. And it's a children's book, I suppose, yet it's really an adult's book. The artist, the illustrator is Christy Wolin, and the author is Rusty Burkus. Male or female? I don't know. It's a beautiful book, and it was speaking to my heart. So I thought I would share some of it, as well as 6 points that I will cover here. What we wouldn't give to know that it is okay not to feel okay. And to know that it is okay to feel powerful, magnificent, deserving, even extraordinary. Would you be willing to get out of your own way and let the miracles that are yours by divine right come into your life? Good. Thank you, Jan. Who else? Can I get an amen or a yes to that? So the first three, Tim, could you flip that? Thank you. Yeah. First two. Let me get myself together here. It'll be worth it. Is knowing what you want. What are the truths about you? What are the big truths? The big truths with a capital T. I think it's important that we start there. What is it you want? In ITP, Integral Transformative Practice, that I'm part of, we used to do this beautiful calling in our good. And call it in. Love, joy, abundance, peace. What is your good you're calling in? Hold it in your heart and know it. By claiming our good, we're not taking anything from anyone else. We're simply claiming our abundance that's here and available all the time to us. We are these divine expressions. We are these divine children of a divine, loving presence. And as such, we are worthy of abundance. Number two is a biggie on this journey to claiming our good. It's kind of where we do some of the work, the hard work. Know what you want to eliminate from your life. What are your limiting fears and beliefs? For me, I could have asked you, what is it you don't want? Yet, if you are familiar with that law of attraction, you might know that if you're asking for what you don't want, or you're saying, I know what I don't want, what might we be calling in? More of that, more of what we don't want. I used to go through high school and college saying, I know what I don't want, I know what I don't want, I know what I don't want, experience after experience. I know I don't want a boss like that again. And there. Oh, I got it. I know I don't want to be like my mother, yet there I was, teaching fifth graders and banging on the table. It was like part of a table to get their attention. You know, doing things that I hated when I was little. So this knowing what you want to eliminate is an important piece. Catherine Ponder's book I'm reading right now is called Open Your Mind to Prosperity. And she talks about writing a list. What would you like to eliminate? And I say start with the fears and the limiting beliefs, which I call untruths. I feel like we're like this peach, and the peach pit are these untruths that we come in with or pick up along the way. I do believe the soul is eternal. I think that's part of why there's such a big deal made about the afterlife. It's because at some level we know that we go back to spirit, yet we've always been spirit. So if you are of that mind, and I am, that believes that the soul contracts different things, we can appreciate this gnarly stuff in the middle, that peach pit. And we could also identify it and give it some love. So what are your fears? I have had some doozies to work with in this lifetime. Fear of being safe, to be me. Feeling like I was not deserving. What are some of yours? And as they come up, and whether something comes up for me or for you, know that as it's being released, that's a good thing. That's a way that we're healing one another. I totally believe that the shift on the planet is about moving into compassion. And we don't get there, some of us, without doing this internal work and coming to a place of compassion with ourselves first. Miguel Ruiz talks about the domestication of ourselves as children in the 4 Agreements, which he wrote. It's one of my staples. It's a beautiful, beautiful book, and it's in my little toolbox of spirit tools. He says all the stuff we believed from our parents or other adults or children, peers, and we take on, those are those untruths. And then we spend a lifetime trying to, first of all, realizing they're not ours, they never were, and even if they were, now we don't believe them anymore. This whole spiritual process is about claiming our good. It's like we called them in, they're in that pit, they're there, they're rooted, they brought us here and to where we are today, yet they're not necessary anymore. So this idea of knowing what you want to eliminate is really important, I feel, on this journey. I have been well domesticated. How many of you have also been well domesticated in this lifetime? I have some more to read to you. Before we move on. How would it be to know that when life doesn't seem to be working, it is still working perfectly? All earthly pain is due to our inability to release what needs to be free. What do you think about that? It may resonate. It may not. You may take it into consideration today. When you release what needs to be free, you are freed in the process. Next slide, please. Thank you, Tim. So numbers 3 and 4. Commence clutter clearing. Making space for new. This is making space for new energy. I never quite understood the idea of a vacuum. And in Catherine's book, she explains it pretty well. And she talks about the idea that you have to be conscious of what you want, as you're clearing out the clutter. What's the good that you want to call in? What are the truths that you wish to step into in life? If you're replacing and eliminating fears and limiting beliefs, what's the new? So if you have the big T's, the big truths, then you already are pretty clear that it's going to be good stuff. So this idea of clutter clearing is really about that. And if you know something or anything about feng shui, I've learned a little bit from a couple of people I've listened to. It's not only the clutter that's around in a room, boxes and corners, papers. It's also the stuff that's in the drawers and in the cabinets, too. And one little tiny shift, one little area that's cleaned out, one little drawer that suddenly has energy, new energy flowing through, shifts greatly your entire being. What I learned is we're actually supposed to only have our drawers and our cabinets filled about, halfway, maybe 3/4, maybe 2/3, to let that energy keep flowing through continuously. I was at the Spirit Mind Body Fair in Topeka a few years back, and I went to a woman who did readings, and she said, "You have 2 file cabinets in your closet. They want to be out of that closet." I was like, I'd never thought about things having this energy. Perhaps they do. I kind of believe it now. She also told me to take my gemstones out of my drawers and put them in the sunlight to be renewed. How many of us are going without some sunshine day to day? This sense of clearing the clutter, it's not only external, of course. It's internal, too. As soon as I started doing some clearing in June, the city of Manhattan began flushing the sewer lines in my neighborhood. How's that for a reflection of what's going on? I also went right to a box in a closet that had been there a long time, just with the knowing it was time to get rid of the photo album, the first wedding album from my first marriage, this huge album of pictures. I had done clearing about 6 years ago. I was invited to a full moon ceremony, a fire ceremony, and brought pictures with me. So this was another step. It's that peeling the onion thing. We clear and we clear some more and we clear some more, especially if you're feeling stuck. It's the most perfect thing to do is find something to shift. Find some area that's got some clutter. Once I started working on internal shifting and clearing, they started putting in new lines in the neighborhood. So what a beautiful expression of the work I was doing. In the middle of that work, I was peeling layers, which is the next one. And I came to this place of feeling, not only was I not deserving, I didn't deserve to be here. And I went all the way back to the womb of my mother and felt that. Whether that's the origin or not, I don't know. It could be lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. I happen to have heard about some of mine and had snippets of some of mine in the past. And there are always some that aren't very pretty, or we're killed, or we're killing. The circle of life. Things are born, things are die, and yet the spirit lives on. It was a biggie. I had known that my mother, well, I had known her all my life, and I knew her to be pretty darn angry most of the time, and very expressive about that. She would tell us that her father died when she was in 7th grade. She would tell us her brother died. And one time I asked her, well, when did that happen? When I was pregnant with you. So who knows whose stamp? But if I believe that the soul makes these contracts, then that's what I set up. I set up these situations where I took this stuff on, just so I can stand here today and say, enough. Enough. I want to be the peach. I want to be the full, rich, juicy part in life. And perhaps that's what you wish for yourselves, too. There are many ways to peel layers. Ho'oponopono, most of us are familiar with that prayer of, I am sorry, we are sorry. Please forgive us. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for bringing me what I needed. I love you. One way I peel layers with clients that come is simply to have them, and I learned it from a couple of teachers of mine, spirit teachers, and it works beautifully. It's a newer piece of my intuitive work. And it's having someone simply be aware of what it is they're feeling, or the story, or the belief. And then allow themselves in this awareness to move it outside, to have some compassion. And if they're ready, to let it go in some way that is meaningful to them, using some guided imagery. What happens as we peel, and I will ask if they would like to do that, if I know something's there, something's stuck. And if they ask, well, what's that? It's my bright light work. We're going to peel layers. I've never had anyone say no. Under the layers, just asking, what's under that? And going through that process of being aware, simply touching awareness. My teacher Sharon would say, it just wants to be recognized. It just wants to be recognized. It wants to be touched. It wants to be loved through recognition. And it's the soul recognition. Oh yeah, this is this gnarly stuff that I wrote in for myself. Underneath that is always, without a doubt, those capital T truths. Love, peace, contentment, joy. There's always that underneath, however it's expressed for the person. And before they get there, I can already feel it, and my body's bubbling, and energy is flowing, and I have this giant smile on my face just waiting for them to bring it out in whatever words they have for that energy. And after that, we typically will work with some I am statements using their language. I am peace. I go about my day in peace. And if we have an hour, I like to take them to a table if I'm doing it in person. I can do it over the phone too, which is pretty cool. But if we have the time and they're there in person, I bring them to a massage table and we use the energy of vibration. I use tuning forks to bring that into the body and the mind and the spirit even deeper. It's really powerful work. It's another way to peel. I haven't found that this is work that stops at any point while we're here on the earth. So stay with it. That's my advice to you. There is no one to compare yourself to and no one to compete with. There never was. When the rose and the lotus are side by side, is one more beautiful than the other? When you awaken to who and what you are, everyone automatically awakens to who and what you are without a word spoken. Next slide. Last slide. Thank you, Tim. Affirming your good. Please do this throughout the day with gratitude and joy. If you've done your clutter clearing and you've done your eliminating negative beliefs, at least some work, then you can more fully resonate. You can step into this light of who you are and vibrate as that. I went to a workshop with a woman, Crystal Nani, N-A-N-I. She wrote a book, Sacred Choices, about shifting beliefs. And the first book that drew me to her is called Diary of a Medical Intuitive. And she talks about her journey. She was an ER nurse in New York for 16 years before she started getting ill. And what was happening was she was denying this gift of being able to intuitively know where the dis-ease is within a person's energy field and to venture into a different direction. She asked for sign after sign after sign after sign. She got them, and she just asked for bigger and bigger signs until she was in Peru asking for, I believe it was a camel totem. Okay, and it was like the third camel. It's got to come and block my path, and this camel literally blocked her path up a mountain before she got it. So she sees the dis-ease in someone's system, and 3 of us from this community, not here today, but this unity community, went and met with this woman and saw her talk. She called me up. Now, typically, she calls people up who have, this energy, this misaligned energy field. So I was very grateful, but I was kind of surprised when she told me that I'm prostituting myself, being a people pleaser, and it was not a good thing. Awareness, stepping into awareness, affirming my good daily. It gave me something to work on. I couldn't resonate with, she gave me this statement, it is safe to be here. And I couldn't resonate with that. So a month later, I'm calling her partner, who's the psychologist, and had a session with her. She said, "You're just not there yet." Telling her some of my past, telling her how I stayed. 6 more months after a friend was killed, working with the person that I knew was the perpetrator, wasn't doing any good for myself. All the stuff I carried from living in New York. Now, I wasn't safe with my mom, but I didn't know that then. I slept well as a kid. Everything was fine. It was the outer. That's where I didn't feel safe. I was mugged a couple of times. I was held up by gunpoint when I worked at a drugstore. But those weren't even the biggest charges. It was the stuff that I hadn't dealt with my own family. That was where I did most of my elimination work. And that was pretty recent. So this sense of, if you're not resonating, there could be a reason. There could be some work to do. There could be more work to do. But once you're there, affirm your good daily. Catherine Ponder has a wonderful affirmation that she uses, and it's to eliminate and call in at the same time. I release all people, all things that are no longer part of my divine plan. All people, all things, release me. and I step into my good.